Those who are members of Dr. Paul, Romantopedia, Romanticology, Women's Psychology, etc., most of our sites, including men's psychology, are going to get access to this site that I've been developing for 10 years. And it's based on a model of human courtship. I published a book in 2007, my model with Penguin Books. But I've taken what I started with in that book and have correlated with all the psychology research that has exploded over the past 15 years or so, and correlated everything and developed the best model of human courtship that I could muster. And it's represented in this site. And the site is structured like a wiki. So you can, browse it and surf it and click on various items here and just walk yourself through a tour of what I believe to be 9 steps of human courtship in 3 phases. And it has all kinds of extra functionality. And this is going to be available to our new paid members, except those who are attending here now live. I'm just going to give you free lifetime membership to all the Substacks as well as this site, and a set of courses as well on a different site. That's what I announced at the get-go here. I also want to, answer any initial questions you may have about why we're having this call now. We're doing a launch of paid memberships, but you all are going to remain free for life by being here. So anyone who wants to can feel free to chime in. I'm going to keep the recording live for those who are outside the United States and want to be able to watch this and couldn't attend live. But those who are attending live, I'm going to give a free lifetime membership. So let's take a quick tour of Romantopedia here. To the left, there is going to be a menu of the 9 steps of human courtship in our model called Romantic Dynamics, which comes in 3 phases, including an introductory set of courses here. And then the first phase is sexual attraction, reptilian brain. The second phase is emotional attraction, which is mammalian brained or limbic or emotion based. And then the third phase is intellectual attraction, which is more conscious and is essentially partnership. And there are 3 steps in each. Now, these are gigantic steps with all kinds of learning to do within each. And if you click over here, you could sequentially walk through all 9 steps if you like and take in every lesson, but you also may find yourself surfing through this wiki style education. Over to, let's see, let me move this. Over to the right, when you first sign in, you have to, re-sign in as if you're signing up initially for a website, the same as you once did for Substack. Paid members simply need to be a member of Substack, and I will cross-check your identity with the Substack. If you ever quit our Substacks that are paid, then you will be deleted from this site as well. Now, over to the right, there are all these buttons to click. Now, there's going to be a membership dashboard, which is where you can chat. There's a forum. You can dialogue with each other and occasionally with me on this forum. You can ask questions. We might field some questions for what are going to be weekly calls that we're going to have, except when I'm on vacation or away. Generally, it's going to be weekly, and they will be recorded. So you don't literally have to attend live, but you can ask questions ahead of time by writing to me. There's a course directory here as well, but I'm also going to give you access to a different site where you can access the same courses. I'm going to skip over this one. Private consultation is available. And it's important that you know, in me talking to you on these calls, as well as on this site, all the content here, my name isn't mentioned anywhere on any of these sites. However, if you have questions for me, you want a dialogue, it is not going to be in the form of medical advice. So I'm going to essentially never give literal medical advice, but we can have discussion about human courtship, personal growth, women's personal growth, men's personal growth, relationships, just as a discourse with each other. That's what's being offered here, not medical advice. So don't ask any medical questions, please. Also, there are rules of the road. We need to be civil with each other. No explosiveness, anger, things like this. No dangerous behavior, no suicidal endorsements will be tolerated here. you need to go to a professional locally for that. There's a quiz button here to test your personality style. I call it the social personality system, and it used to be called KWML for those who are familiar from 15, 20 years ago with the KWML quiz and personality styles. Social personality is what we call it now. You can check what yours is by clicking this button. There is a lexicon of terms. So if any of our terminology doesn't make sense, we use terms from various fields of psychology, including Jungian psychology, Freudian psychoanalysis, psychodynamic psychotherapy, cognitive behavioral therapy, self-psychology, positive psychology, and more. So if anything doesn't make sense, chances are you'll be able to hover over a word. Here's an example, William Shakespeare. So hovering over a word, you'll get, a pop-up that will explain the word. Here's another example, romantic dynamics, or how about courtship? There we go. So pop-ups occur all through the site. If you don't understand a term, just hover over it. It'll define the term. And you can dig into the terms in the lexicon. There's a teleseminars button. What I'm going to place there, we have the option of audio teleseminars, but just by phone. Sometimes I may do that, and I will send you a Substack email about it if it is pure audio and not video. Most of the time, I'm going to try to do Zoom calls weekly, and I'll place the schedule here and the links. There's a bibliography, and this is something new over the past 10 years. The bibliography makes direct reference to the exploding body of research in psychology on the topic of human courtship. Prior to the 1990s, most of the research tended to be about marriage only, and it was almost never about single people. Well, after the 90s, for the first time, at least in America, and then eventually England and Europe, there became more single people than married people for the first time in our history. So along with that, a lot of research started coming out about early human courtship. So we divided into the three phases: sexual attraction, emotional attraction, and intellectual attraction, and the bodies of science literature that correlate with our principles. And then there are suggested romantic books about each of the steps of courtship, digging deeper. Interestingly, I think romantic films, there happen to be a limited number of total romantic comedies ever produced. And the very first one was in the United States in 1914. So we have we have an index of every romantic comedy ever produced as examples that exist in the world of cinematic art for looking at near perfection in how all of the steps of courtship take place. It's been suggested to me over the years that I should hire actors and demonstrate all the principles involved with human courtship and romantic dynamics, but I didn't necessarily, take well to the idea of having to train actors for years just to do every little nuance of human courtship. Instead, I realized I should just be looking at film that already exists that depicts each of the romantic principles in human courtship. So there's a compendium here of that. Also, romantic music for those who are more audio oriented in how they learn and enjoy. There's romantic music and interpretation, and romantic places to go throughout the world. This can also be filled in by members, those who have had interesting dates in maybe unexpected places could enter a spot that they really enjoy themselves and describe it here, romantic places. Periodically, there will be events worldwide, which will be live intensives on each of the phases of courtship. Those will be rolling out in coming years. There's a therapy directory, which takes you to Psychology Today for those who need more than just discussion and discourse. And then there's an extensive facts page on how to use Romantopedia. Now, back to this button. And I don't want to belabor the point, but I'm showing you all the features of this. It's been 10 years in development. The virtual advisor was developed before ChatGPT. I viewed it as an AI-like functionality, and there are several advisors available here. The general virtual advisor will guide you through a series of questions, and it can be an endless tunneling that you do, continuing to answer its questions. But at any point that it gives you an answer to your question and narrows you down to a specific phase of human courtship, then a specific step of human courtship out of the nine, and then finally, a specific page for instruction in the 5,000 plus pages that are on the site. It was a way of narrowing you down to just what you need to learn today for any given question that you have out of the 5,000 pages without having to read literally every one of them. So it's AI like. It's more of a quiz approach to narrowing down your studies and making yourself a study plan, let's say. There's also a general personal growth advisor that isn't specific to courtship or love. There's a dating advisor that is predominantly for the questions of single people. There's a compatibility advisor for those interested in, thinking about a current relationship they may be in or deconstructing a past relationship to check on your compatibility from a science perspective. This is not astrology. This is not randomness. This is just very rooted in the very explosive body of literature on human courtship that has been occurring. Boundary assessment. I think one of the biggest sources of pain in the world, whether it's the causes of war, of uncivil discourse, such as on Twitter, for example, relationship conflict, all the areas of life that stress us out always have something to do with boundaries. So this is a boundary assessment, looking at your boundaries or those of someone else to learn some fine detail about them and relieve some of the stress. I'll give you a little look at the virtual advisor, the way it's formatted, because this is one of the most unique functions of this site. So let's see, how about I say, why do people break up? Submit. Okay, so now we're into the virtual advisor. We begin with, are you male or female? I'm male. Just click it and it automatically proceeds. All right. Now it talks about there is a first phase, a second phase, and a third phase of courtship. Is your question pertaining to the first, second, or third phase? Let's say my question is about the third phase, which involves successful goals and committed relationships and partnership. You can also go back. As soon as you click on one of these, it's immediately going to proceed. So it's talking to me more, and it's saying there is a step 1, 2, and 3 of intellectual attraction, the third phase of courtship. Literally, these are actually steps 7, 8, and 9 of the overall body of work. So what's my question about? Is it about my own personal growth as I'm getting into a committed partnership? Is it about my compatibility with the other person in a partnership? Or is it about we do get along, but what do we want to do together as life's goals? So I have to choose one of these. I have things to do with my career. I may want to work on myself first. We're together as a couple for sure, but we're untested in the real world. See, all these answers are in normal person language. We have some doubts about our commitments, some fights that get in the way, or none of the above. So how would I pick? We're together as a couple, but we're untested. So I'll pick that one. Now, these questions can go on endlessly if you so choose. You can just browse and browse and browse. At some point, you may want to settle on some of the coursework. So this is talking about compatibility in partnership between two people. Generally, there need to be some commonalities. Intelligence, maturity level, beliefs and values, and then life's goals are commonalities that we can't really change a whole lot, at least not fast. But there are 4 skills that any couple can grow from scratch. So this gives us a lot of optimism and promise, no matter what kind of relationship you're in or how difficult things have been. You can grow curiosity, communication, compromise, and collaboration skills, what I call the 4 C's. So down the bottom, there's a lot to learn here. And down the bottom, I wonder if we were ever compatible really to begin with. Or we have a lot of compatibility, but we are just so different. Or we probably have plenty in common, but we just don't seem that interested in going deeper into the reasons at success. Or since I'm male, it's telling me she doesn't seem to understand me. If you were female and answered that first question, say he doesn't understand you. Or it's worse than all that. We fight and we have to admit it's a hard time finding agreement. So you have all these choices and you have to choose one. I'm going to say, what if we were never compatible to begin with? Where does it take me? All right. What is it that even makes us compatible? So it starts lecturing me about character compatibility. And this is going to have a lot to do with these 4 commonalities and these 4 skills we can learn, as well as the large body of literature called positive psychology. So we're going to learn about that. But I can keep answering questions here, and it's eventually going to lead me to some web pages. I'm going to say I'm the one who has more issues with her as far as compatibility. She doesn't get that we are not succeeding. And it could be flipped genders if you're female. All right. So now it's tunneled me down to a specific lesson. So in 4 or 5 questions, you may find yourself with just the right content to learn. And the title of this article is going to be Women Who Change After Commitment. Now, if you were female, it might say Men Who Change After Commitment. So it talks about the 3 phases of courtship. How about I go back just to show you you can do that at any step here. Let me go backward, pick a different answer. I wonder about our compatibility, but I don't know where to start. So I'm going to pick that one instead. I was going on the wrong track there, so I want to go back. All right. This is the film poster from the film Closer, which is just rich with relationship dynamics. If you've ever seen the film Closer with Julia Roberts, Clive Owen, Natalie Portman, and Jude Law. The title of the article is going to be Real World Compatibility and Incompatibility. And it talks about director Mike Nichols, which is he's spent his life making very interesting, not romantic comedies, often tragedies that show us how to do human courtship wrong. And at the bottom, it says, time for the lesson on the intellectual attraction of the film Closer. So I'm going to click on that. Now, at this point, it's going to exit me from the virtual advisor. It's going to take me to one of the 5,000 article web pages of Romantopedia. And I'm going to learn about the intellectual attraction of the film Closer. So we have a long article here, the wrong personality styles for a commitment, lots of diagrams of boundaries that are very instructive. It's about a 1,000-word article. I talk about what is called the Artemis instinct. There's a lot of fine art in here. Any art older than approximately a century is public domain. So lucky for me, I base a lot of my model here on the Greek myths, as well as on Shakespeare and modern cinema. Now, modern cinema might be public domain for educational purposes, but the paintings of Shakespearean characters and certainly of the Greek myths have been around for hundreds, if not thousands of years. So I feel that for those who are visual learners, they're going to like the diagrams, you're going to like the paintings. At the bottom of every page, you can expand the references and find out the actual scientific articles related. There's a floating menu that travels with you as well. Say that you're working your way through here, you didn't even use the virtual advisor. You click on something and tunnel down to a step of courtship. There's going to be a traveling menu that goes with you that correlates with what step of courtship are we in and what other articles are related. So if the title of this article is The Intellectual Attraction of the Film Closer, you're going to find it in this menu, and here it is. So the lessons that come before and after this article are always going to be represented right here. And the reason this says 8 is because these are all the articles in step 8 out of 9 of human courtship. So you always know where you are in the overall steps 1 through 9 of courtship and phases 1, 2, and 3, because it'll be represented right here. If you want to do more learning after you've read this article, you would either continue at the bottom with next arrow, or you could jump down to what's right below in the list here. Okay. So this is romantipedia.com. It's going to be free to those who have a paid membership in the future to the Substack. So before I show you the next benefit, a different website with lots of courses, I want to see if there are any questions about this new site that you didn't know I've been working on for 10 years. Feel free to unmute yourselves, any of those of you who have questions. Okay. Let's see here. I'm gonna stop the share. Go. All right. All right. Now I'm gonna show you another site. Expand this. There we go. Okay. Now, this site is going to also be available to you. I'm probably going to make both sites available to anyone who is a paid Substack member and those of you who are attending live. Sorry about the noise in the background. It's a big city. This site is called romanticdynamics.com. The prior site was romantipedia.com. Now, I've called this one Romantic Dynamics, even though there are many courses represented here. These are all courses for you to take. There's quizzes, there's certification in your knowledge, tracking your learning of all these areas. And although there's personal growth material specific to women and specific to men here, that really don't have to do with courtship at all, I thought that calling it romantic dynamics would make sense, because I truly believe that our biggest psychological growth happens in the course of at least friendships, if not romantic relationships. We tend to learn the most about ourselves when we're in a relationship. So romanticdynamics.com, it's actually courses.romanticdynamics.com. You will be required to establish an identity, sign up. For you, it will be free. For those who are new paid members of one of our Substacks, you will be able to access this as well. But you do have to sign up at the starting point. I'll be sending out, other than you, who I will let in early, kind of get on the plane and take off as we're building the plane, as they say. We're almost done with both of these sites. I want to give you early access, those who are live here. Those who become paid members will get access starting in September, when we really do a hard launch. And I want to share with you what's here. Now, this is going to grow, this site. There's going to be more and more courses. These are video courses, kind of Udemy style courses on various topics. For example, character psychology. Those of you who are more interested in boundaries and just general personal growth, nothing to do with romance, may want to check out this course. Those of you who are either male and want to learn about yourselves, or you're female and you want to learn about males, the Men's Psychology Comprehensive Guide is probably our most extensive course. There's literally hundreds of hours of video instruction here for your $9 a month. I'm just going to, let me click on this. Here's a whole list of courses: Romantic Dynamics, the Social Personality System, formerly called KWML, those who are interested in personality styles, Masculine Psychology, a quirky little name, Depresculinity, something that I came up with about 15 years ago. I believe that it's going to be found eventually that a diagnosis in psychiatry called dysthymia may eventually be revealed to be a biologic sex specific kind of depression. It goes really to your core. Whether you're male or female, there's a male version and a female version of depression that I think is rooted in biologic sex. And that's kind of a new idea, but it's kind of obvious to us all in the field. So that's what depresculinity is about, is male depression. There will eventually be a course on female dysthymia as well. Just general dating for men and for women. So lots of courses here. I am going to try to go backwards. I want to tunnel into one of these courses to show you a bit how it works. So I've already started taking my own course here. As you see, there are numerous classes in the course and then lessons in the course. And it kind of takes you through a series of menus. I'm going to resume where I started. So there's kind of a scrolling syllabus right to the right here as you're going through a course. And usually at the top, there's going to tend to be a video lesson. Let me click on this one, clicking on classes. So here you go. So you can read the lesson each time. There will often be downloadable PDF versions of the lesson. And at the top, every lesson is going to have a video with it. So you get the idea. There's going to be a video instruction, usually by myself, sometimes video, sometimes me going through, video PowerPoint lessons throughout all of these classes in each course and then the lessons. So these are all modules of men's psychology as an example of a course. I'm going to tunnel into new theory of men's psychology. Now that's the class within the course. These are each individual lessons right here. And these are all artistic, well done slides that I feel keep your attention and interest as we go along through this coursework. 6 of 100 lessons completed, right? Each of these lessons has at least an hour video correlating with it. You could literally spend the next 3 years, 4 years going through this coursework. You should get a college degree equivalent for so doing. You also can tunnel down to just what's interesting to you. And those of you who are here live, your access is never going to expire. Those who are paid members need to remain paid Substack members to continue access to both this romanticdynamics.com as well as the romantipedia.com. Okay, so I'm going to pause my share, stop my share. And so these are the 2 very extensive websites that new paid Substack members on a monthly $9 fee are going to have access to, who are here live. I think I see Nikitas here, whom I haven't seen physically in a number of years. So you look like you have matured, Nikitas, physically. I think there is also a chat function going. I'm going to check that now.
Yes, sir. I said I recently rewatched
hey there,
again. How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Excellent. I've been going back through all of your classic work recently. Excited to see the new site. Yeah.
I was kind of silent, in the public forum for about 10 years. I decided it was time to really dig into some R&D and less just what I intuitively know to be true or you just taking my word for things and more into direct correlation with the science literature of the ideas I talk about. And
Awesome.
those of you who find new literature that maybe rebuts some of the principles that I teach, feel free to write me about that because I want this to be as accurate a body of knowledge as possible. I don't mind at all new learning and changing the way the model works so that it is true to science and to the research. There was no research on single people before the 1990s, like I said. And so all of this is brand new in terms of the psychology research, at least 30 years brand new, which is quite new, in science. All right. Anyone else with any questions about how these sites will work or just questions you have for me? It's been a long time since I've met with any of you personally. I'm gonna try as schedule permits to have weekly Zoom calls as well. Sort of a Q&A. Any questions you have as you go into the material that you want to ask me, or just general questions. I'm going to try to give you answers that are just not medical advice. I don't really want to talk about pharmacology and things like this, but I want to talk about psychology, as a discourse, as interesting conversation between us all.
Yeah, I was wondering if it'll probably be self-evident when we go through the courses, but like what was the what was the change from like your earlier work like till now, like the biggest change? Like, because I remember you did Mind OS. Like, was there like a paradigm shift? I hate to use that word, but I don't know what else to call it. Like,
Yeah,
in 10
yeah.
years.
No, I would not say a paradigm shift, but I would say when I was in I was introduced to the world of media, journalism, being a public intellectual, I think too rapidly for myself. I was thrust into a lot of situations that were new to me. I didn't understand them. I was an honest, genuine person and wanted to help people, including journalists. And I quickly found that you have to have a kind of shrewdness to understand the world of media. So, uh, to answer your question more directly, I like the word phenomenology, which means what you see is what you get. Somebody's behaving in a certain way, and you're seeing the outer shell of the behavior. And if you see something, 1,000 times, you're going to start to recognize patterns. So, as a psychiatrist of now almost 30 years, I have a lot of experience of people's phenomenologic presentation of themselves. When I was in my 30s, I had quite a bit of experience of that sort, and I started seeing patterns. And I was revealing to you, kind of off the cuff, hey guys, this seems to be true. I've seen it 1,000 times. It's always the same, and it always leads to some other thing in a predictive fashion. And I was sharing that intuitive skill with you back then. I decided between now and then that I need to be robust in my references to science literature. It's no longer good enough for me to just say, hey, take it from me. I'm an expert. I have all this experience, and I think what I'm telling you is true. Just take it from me as truthful. And those of you who know me well might do that. Those who are my friends might do that. But the general public, people I don't know, that's not acceptable today. There needs to be some kind of structure, justification, and reference to actual research. So that's what happened to me. That's why I disappeared. I wanted to refurbish this work that I intuitively knew was pretty on the mark 20 years ago, but I needed to prove it. I needed to show the science literature associated with each principle. Unfortunately, when I was in my 30s, there wasn't enough research on what we were talking about to talk about single people or what attracts humans in the first place. There was no research on it. But luckily, both evolutionary psychology and positive psychology have greatly expanded their research in the last 20 years or so. So it's a rich, rich area to tunnel down deep into. I guess that ended up being a very long answer to you, but it has to do with the references to what I claim to be true need to exist, and it can't just be you taking my word for things. Any other thoughts or questions? I appreciate you all being here. Christina and Tracy, especially. I don't know if you encountered my material just on romance or on general personal growth, or even on the study of men in society, those who are as a demographic group not doing so well.
Hi, Dr. Paul. This is Christina.
Hey,
We last spoke
how
about 5 years ago, and that was
wow.
5 years ago. I was going through a lot. But anyways,
Yes, I remember. Didn't you come to an intensive or boot camp in maybe New York?
no, actually, I
No.
was in the middle of. Oh my gosh. Well, I found your resources in 2011 when I was 24, and a lot of it went over my
Wow.
head, honestly. Like, I was like, oh, wow,
Yeah.
like I have a lot to study. But I've referenced a lot of what I heard on those calls then and your materials you shared with me since. And I was so happy to get that invite to your Substack. I was like, oh, he's back. Like,
Yeah.
yeah. And I've just found all your information. So basically, I've referenced the personal growth and the romance related materials. I've always been curious about what's on the other side for men's psychology because I never got access to that. So it is cool to see
Oh,
that we have access to that now because I went to like a women's college, girls' schools,
Wow.
I still at 36 feel like, yeah, I don't. It's interesting. A lot of my friends are men, but I still feel like I don't fully understand um, where they're always coming from.
Well, both, I call them biologic sexes these days, to avoid confusion. But I think both men and women still have a lot to learn about each other. And although I dove deep into the study of males because they were the underdogs for the last several decades, I'm learning new things all the time about the specifics of female psychology. So that's kind of my new growth area now. I think you raised something before we end. We only have 7 minutes left on this call, but you raise another important aspect of where did I go, what happened to me, and why did I refurbish everything? And it's been 10 years of developing beyond what you may have known in 2010 or 2011. It's very expanded and refined. It was too confusing to people. I think what's happened in the media and public discourse, it's not like people have become more intelligent, but they're taking on more in-depth interest in psychology like they've never done before. And people have read enough, even magazine articles or videos or journalism, people have learned so much more to the point where maybe my material is now more digestible by the average person today because of the public interest. For example, narcissism, the hot word in journalism on psychology these days is narcissism and toxic this and toxic that. Toxic just means narcissistic. And that which is narcissistic belongs to any demographic. There's no one demographic more narcissistic than another. We're all somewhat narcissistic, every single one of us. But now the public's using the technical term and diving deeper into, well, what exactly is narcissism? And there's millions of articles today about that topic that didn't exist in 2010, 2011. So I felt like my material was, I'm not going to say ahead of its time, but it was released too early for the public to be able to digest. Hopefully you can these days. So thanks for being here, Christina.
I'd have a question regarding the matchmaking movement, if I may.
Sure.
Yeah,
Keep in mind, we only have 5 minutes left.
I'll
It's
keep it.
going to
I'll keep.
be a hard stop.
I'll be succinct. Personal experience, Caden Mill system has been absolutely stellar, and as I've refined it, I've met some really, top notch women that've been really great using that. But what I find is that when you get to the more mature parts of it, I find it's harder to communicate what that experience is like to the average person. So I was wondering if you have any updates on that as how we can get that across. Because I find that a really profound shift happens when you get closer to the center of the diagram when you meet somebody who's super mature.
You're saying discussing principles of what is psychological maturity is a more difficult discussion or intellectual
I think, well, to people who
area?
haven't encountered material to discuss what the experience of is like when you meet a super integrated person, like to help them recognize that.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, today there are positive, optimistic synonyms for the very old scientific principles in the same way that narcissism has a synonym today in the word toxic. Anytime somebody says you're toxic, you're the toxic this, toxic that, it's a misnomer. It's kind of bullying. If you ever call anybody toxic, you're being a bully because you're labeling an immutable trait of that person with a mutable, changeable human aspect, which is narcissism. See? It's like calling you a big, fat, whatever you were born as. It's bullying. Well, the flip side is also true. So the opposite of narcissism is maturity. Today's synonym for character maturity is probably either authenticity. That's not quite maturity. It's honesty, but emotionally intelligent. Emotional intelligence is simply a synonym for the ancient concept of character growth or what Aristotle called virtue. Emotional intelligence is virtue. 2,500 years old plus. So there are synonyms in today's lexicon.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. So, I mean, we can have discussions about what are all the synonyms for various things, as we go along. So thank you. Thank you, Nikitas. Thank you, Christina, Tracy. Any comments or questions from anybody else? And those who become paid members in the future will, for $9 a month, be able to access these 2 sites. And I'm going to be adding over the years to the sites with new courses. Romantopedia, I will be adding any new research that comes out correlating with these 9 steps. And if you have any questions along the way, I'm going to try to have approximately weekly Zoom calls for members, which you will get a Substack announcement for. So after we're done, I'm going to, write to me at either Dr. Paul or Men's Psychology or Romantopedia, one of the Substacks at substack.com, and give me your email address and your name, your actual name on your birth certificate, please, not nicknames. And then I will program you in to all the Substacks, these 2 sites. And you'll be able to enter even before I'm completely done with them both, explore around, see what. All right. All right, you guys, have a good rest of the weekend. I hope to be talking to you in the future by Zoom, as well as on Substack and in these courses and sites. All right. Thank you.